Was it right for Israel to do what they did concerning the wives of Benjamin? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we conclude our verse-by-verse study of the book of Judges on walking through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing Judges 21 verses 16 to 25. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Judges chapter 21 verse 16. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Judges 21, beginning at verse 16. Then the elders of the congregation said, "What shall we do for the wives for those who remain, since the women of Benjamin have been destroyed?" And they said, "There must be an inheritance for the survivors of Benjamin, that a tribe may not be destroyed from Israel. However, we cannot give them wives from our daughters, for the children of Israel have sworn an oath, saying, 'Cursed be the one who gives a wife to Benjamin.'" Then they said, "In fact, there is a yearly feast of the Lord in Shiloh, which is north of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and south of Lebonah." Therefore they instructed the children of Benjamin, saying, "Go, lie in wait in the vineyards, and watch. And just when the daughters of Shiloh come out to perform their dances, then come out from the vineyards, and every man catch a wife for himself from the daughters of Shiloh. Then go to the land of Benjamin. Then it shall be, when their fathers or their brothers come to us to complain, that we will say to them, 'Be kind to them for our sakes, because we did not take a wife for any of them in the war. For it is not as though you have given the women to them at this time, making yourselves guilty of your oath.' And the children of Benjamin did so. They took enough wives for their number from those who danced, whom they caught. Then they went and returned to their inheritance, and they rebuilt the cities and dwelt in them. So the children of Israel departed from there at that time, every man to his tribe and family. They went out from there, every man to his inheritance. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes." In this chapter, we've been dealing with the aftermath of the war between Israel and the tribe of Benjamin. This war began with the brutal rape and murder of a Levite's concubine back in chapter 19. It escalated when the tribe of Benjamin wouldn't hand over the men of Gibeah in Benjamin who did this so that they could be executed. And after a couple of setbacks, Israel totally defeated Benjamin, with the exception of 600 men of war who escaped. All women and children were also killed. That meant that unless these surviving men of Benjamin could marry and have children, then the tribe would go extinct in Israel. To compound the issue, Israel had taken a rash vow among themselves not to allow any of their daughters to marry into Benjamin before this war began. They regretted that vow, for in the end, they didn't want their brethren to cease to exist. They solved some of this problem by killing everyone in Jabesh-Gilead except the virgin women, because Israel also vowed to kill any family that didn't send able-bodied men to the war effort. Jabesh-Gilead didn't, and so they were killed. But there were only 400 virgin women saved from Jabesh-Gilead, meaning that there were still 200 Benjamites that needed a wife. What to do? Well, one thing we don't read them doing is consulting God on the matter. That's important to understand for our discussion in a few moments. Instead, what they said was that one of the yearly festivals to the Lord in Shiloh, where the tabernacle was, a town between Bethel and Shechem, the remaining 200 Benjamites could lie in wait in the vineyards for the virgin daughters of those who came to the feast to come out dancing. They could then catch some of these girls, and they would become their wives. We don't know which of the yearly feasts we're talking about, but it would likely be one of the two longer feasts like the Passover or Feast of Tabernacles, giving these men the best chance of success. Yes, what these men did was kidnap these women and force them to be their wives. And should these women's fathers or brothers object, they were going to be told basically that it was for the greater good, so that 1, the tribe of Benjamin wouldn't go extinct, and 2, so that the Israelites wouldn't technically break their oath. The question is, was this right? And the answer to that is no. It was not right to force the virgins of Jabesh-Gilead to marry the Benjamites. Neither was it right to kidnap and force some of the virgin daughters who had come to Shiloh for the feast to marry the remaining Benjamites. Israel had not consulted God, nor had they sought God to release them from their oath, which would have been his prerogative to do. God could have done a great many number of things to rectify the situation, but Israel acted on their own, and these were the results. God allowed it to happen, as he allows a lot of evil things to happen, but that doesn't mean he condones them or thinks that the actions were righteous. Another thing to note is how the Israelites tried to find a loophole around their vow by not giving their daughters to the Benjamites, but instead allowing the Benjamites to take their daughters from them by force, and they simply not stopping them. This attitude towards vows reminds me of the attitude of the Pharisees towards vows, an attitude that Jesus condemns in Matthew 5 and Matthew 23. By treating their daughters this way, not only were they not doing right by them, but they were also breaking their vows. Yes, it solved a problem, so they thought, but the ends don't always justify the means, especially when those means are wrong. The reason the people accepted them, though, is because of the final verse in Judges. There was no king in Israel, and everybody did what was right in their own eyes. This verse doesn't say that everyone did right, but everyone did as they saw fit, as they saw right. Sometimes they actually did right, but many times, as we saw in Judges, they did wrong and were punished for it. And so, with that, we conclude our verse-by-verse study of the book of Judges. Tomorrow we will be taking a one-day break and return, the Lord willing, on Tuesday, July 5th, 2022. When we return, we will be covering an overall review of what was revealed to us in this book, so we hope you'll join us for that discussion as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.